So this morning, as I said, it's going to be a few more questions than there are answers. And I will tell you that this is a subject that I have been wanting to talk about for quite a while. And for the first time in a very long time, I'm actually up here just a little bit nervous. So here we go. What if everything we believe is wrong? What if I told you that what you believe is a fantasy created by others to elicit a certain behavior out of you? Would that knowledge change how you live your life? What if I told you that this life is nothing but a dream, a movie projected upon a large screen, and that you're only an actor? If nothing were real, would it change how you live your life right now? If I could prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was no God, no great cosmic spirit, and that after you take your final breath, there is nothing, there never was anything, and it has all been a myth, would this change any aspect of your life? Now, the human experience necessitates explanation and understanding. One could say that it's written in our DNA to seek out the answers to the mysteries. From early man, who explained the human condition by attributing personalities and deities to weather and natural phenomenon, to envisioning races of superior beings called gods and avatars, who simply played with and toyed with the lives of mere mortals for sport and fun. Our society, the human society, from the earliest recorded religions, has been defined by duality. Right and wrong, darkness and light, life and death, negative and positive, punishment and reward. A question we must ask ourselves, and it is a question that only we, that individual I amongst the masses, can answer. Do I follow a spiritual path because I truly believe it is the right path to follow, because I know incorporating faith, love, gentleness, acceptance, and forgiveness into my life is what is best for me? Or do I follow these teachings and try to be all of these things because I'm earning credits for what lies beyond this life? Am I living today, or am I working for a brighter tomorrow? Now, a great spiritual lesson that we recognize here as truth is the act of being present in the moment, living in the now rather than worrying about the future that is yet unknown and unwritten. Yet, is it possible that for all our good intentions, we might be misunderstanding even this lesson? Remember, I said the human experience needs answers and explanations to questions that we might not even know we're asking. And so when presented with a spiritual lesson, we must always ask, why? Why is it important? Now, regardless of your spiritual or religious beliefs, either what you were raised with or what you have grown into, there is a belief of some form of afterlife. Few, though there are some, believe that nothing exists before or after our birth and death. Some truly envision a form of heaven and hell. Some believe in a different planes of existence, a concept which actually is not much different from the heaven and hell ideology. Then there are those who believe in reincarnation. For some, reincarnation is a progressive journey through lives until we reach full enlightenment and unification with God. For others, reincarnation is a never-ending cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, progressing both upwards and downwards as dictated by the way we live. It's sort of a cosmic karma, reward and punishment. Often we're rewarded and punished for minor or insignificant thoughts or actions. This is how some people view reincarnation. There are devoted spiritual students who strive for perfection in thought, action, and belief to ensure a positive experience beyond this life. Not during this life, but for what they will meet on the other side. For some, in fact, this life is a test. This life is meant to be suffered. The more one suffers, the greater rewards once they receive the kingdom of heaven. Rather than living and experiencing the now, we act to avoid a future we don't fully understand. A future that many of us are actually afraid of. Rather than living this life, we suffer and sacrifice for a reward that either we believe will be granted or a promise that someone once told us would be ours. Yet I wonder, are we following a spiritual path if we are seeking a reward in the afterlife? What if we were kind to all simply because being kind was who we are? What if we were loving simply because being loving was who we are? What if we were of service without respect to credit or reward? Now, I inherited my mother's library, and amongst the treasures that I didn't even realize I had was a very small book that I thought was very insignificant. So small that I used it as a bookmark. Okay? I had never read this book in all the years that it's been in my library. Then about a week ago, for some unknown reason, I began to read it. And I will tell you, I was very surprised that what was written was very close and very relevant to what I'd planned to talk about today. I chose this topic back in January. So in 1910, an adolescent 14-year-old Brahmin wrote At the Feet of the Master. This young Brahmin was Jiddu Krishnamurti. Now, this small book breaks down what his teacher taught, the requirements for disciples of the spiritual path. And those requirements were discrimination, desirelessness, good conduct, and love. Now, as you can well imagine, with a book being written over 100 years ago, the language is at times rather difficult to read. And there are many terms that today actually cause a visceral reaction to those who might read it. However, if we can see beyond the words, there is a simple and powerful message. Now, if you've never read At the Feet of the Master, I highly recommend it. And I would like to share a small passage of the book with you this morning. When all desires for self are gone, there may still be a desire to see the result of your work. If you help anybody, you want to see how much you have helped him. Perhaps you even want him to see it too and be grateful. But there is still desire and want of trust. When you pour out your strength to help, there must be a result, whether you can see it or not. And if you know the law, you know that this must be so. So you must do right for the sake of the right, and not in hope of reward. You must work for the sake of work, not in the hope of seeing the result. You must give yourself to the service of the world because you love it and cannot help giving yourself to it. Now that paragraph to me was so absolutely powerful, and particularly this part. When you pour out your strength to help, there must be a result, whether you see it or not. Every action creates a ripple through time and space, either a positive or negative impact in the world. It's a foregone conclusion. For there can be no action without a reaction, without a result. Seeking or expecting fame, gratitude, servitude, or acknowledgement is neither selfless nor is it truly beneficial to our spiritual path. The golden rule states, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Maybe it's time we revisit this rule. Maybe instead of treating others as you want them to treat you, maybe we treat others better than we would want to be treated. Imagine a world, what that world would look like if each of us always treated others better than we wanted to be treated. Now, our moral compass should not be dependent on what others think, nor on the rewards we expect to receive for being moral. First, the perception of morality is judgmental, and judgment of others cannot be spiritual. For in spirit, everything is perfect. Secondly, conforming to the beliefs and morality of others in the hope of achieving nirvana or enlightenment, or perhaps simply being allowed entry into the gates of heaven, is a false morality, and it buys into the reward and punishment concept, which in truth does not exist within spirit. Now, there are many students who work to incorporate kindness and service into their lives in an attempt to build good karma. If I give, I will receive. This is one of the founding principles of the law of attraction, the law of cause and effect. And there is no doubt that these laws operate in our lives, with or without our knowledge. However, if we give with the expectation of receiving, then we are simply going through the motions. Yes, the law of attraction will work. And in fact, absent the ability to not seek a reward and recognition, this is definitely better than doing nothing at all. What if, rather than being kind because we think it will bring us happiness, we are simply happy, and because we are happy, we are always kind? What if, rather than loving others in hope that we will be loved in return, we are simply loving, and because we are loving, we are loved in return? What if, rather than being forgiving because we need to be forgiven, we are simply forgiving, and because we are forgiving to each other, there is nothing to be forgiven for? What if we simply learned to live in the moment? Not because we have been told that by living in the now we can become closer to God. Rather, we become closer to God because we are truly living in the moment. Being present in the moment, being kind, loving, giving, and accepting all have scientifically proven benefits on this human body. Our brains react very differently depending on the reasons we do things. For example, acts of kindness, even kind thoughts, release certain hormones and activate certain parts of our brain. And according to a study that was done in the UK in 2008, selfless acts of kindness of any kind were proven to increase these positive changes by a factor of 100%. It seems that our bodies are biologically wired to be selfless. If we but remember to stop, stay present, and simply be. I'd like to share a very human story regarding living in the moment. It's not my story. A friend was walking in the desert when he found the telephone to God. The setting was Burning Man, an electronic art and music festival for which 50,000 people descended on Black Rock City, Nevada, for 8 days of radical self-expression, dancing, socializing, and meditating. A phone booth in the middle of the desert with a sign that said, "Talk to God," was a surreal sight even at Burning Man. The idea was that you picked up the phone and God, or someone claiming to be God, would be at the other end to ease your pain. So when God came on the line asking how he could help, my friend was ready. "How can I live more in the moment?" he asked. Too often he felt the beautiful moments of his life were drowned out by the cacophony of self-consciousness and anxiety. What could he do to hush the busying of his mind? "Breathe," replied a soothing male voice. Now my friend flinched at the tired New Age mantra, then reminded himself to keep an open mind. When God talks, you listen. Whenever you feel anxious about your future or your past, just breathe, continued God. Try it with me a few times right now. Breathe in, breathe out. And despite himself, my friend began to relax. Now I invite you to simply be, not because you feel you should, not because you expect a better life or even a better afterlife. Just simply be in the moment for the sake of experiencing the moment. Be kind because you are kind. Loving because you are loving. Giving because you are giving. Be because you are. And through it all, remember, breathe in, breathe out. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you. Peace be with you. Thank you.